Right. I can see that, as a platoon sergeant, I would imagine you want the success of the lieutenant coming in, even if you are old, salty and chewing on leather from, the last couple wars, you're like, hey, I know what I need to do here. And I know that this dude's, I'm about to retire and you're just coming in, but my goal is to make you be successful, and so that's really cool. I really like to talk about that because when you transition from the military, and you've had leadership positions and you wind up in a leadership position, if you can hear the people around you still on the team, and pull from them, and work with them like you're in the trenches together, right? Like one together, but you still have, at the end of the day, what I like about SF guys is like a no salute zone and like a first name basis kind of thing. But you have to still like, in regalia, you still salute the captain. You still do all of that in front of the general, et cetera. Right. So there is its rhyme or reason for that leadership.
I think what's important to understand is that there's a difference in jobs. And what happens is, and I just had somebody post something on our YouTube channel, on the Sergeant Major Black's episode. This was this morning, and people misunderstand, even people who serve, they misunderstand the role of the commissioned officer versus the non-commissioned officer. They have different jobs. Okay. And even those who are in these roles often mischaracterize and misunderstand what they're there to do. My job as a detachment commander on an SF team, as a platoon leader, as much as I wanted to, and sometimes was, and getting pulled back and yelled at by my guys, as much as you want to be the first guy through the door, as much as you want to be the one who's going to stand up and give direction and tell guys what to do and make things happen, that's not your job. That's not your job. Your job is to plan. Your job is to bring resources. Your job is to advocate for the team. It's to understand the battlefield. And if that requires you at some times to sit in the truck and coordinate aircraft because you're going to drop bombs, or you're going to bring in medevac, or you're going to move additional forces, and you don't get to, run down the street and shoot your gun and kick the door down, that's your job. And there's other people who are there where their job is to do that. Now, sometimes you might have to, and sometimes that might be your job to go do that. And where we fail and where we go wrong is when we don't understand that role. Now, translate that into any organization, corporate world, right? What's the number one reason for conflict in the workplace? Number one reason for conflict in the workplace? Role misalignment, role misunderstanding. I go to work every day and I think that I should be doing something different than what I'm doing. And I act like that. Or me and somebody else each think that we're responsible for the other's world. And we've never had that conversation. Our leadership has never sat us down and clearly understood swim lanes. When we have conflict in the workplace, we can so often trace that back to, do you know what you're here to do? Do you accept what you're here to do? Do you embrace it? And do you execute on it? You might not like it. We don't always like what we're going to do. And you might be working to change what you're doing. Right. But when you try to do other people's jobs, that's where we have problems.
Yeah. I worked in corporate America for a good 6 years, high tech company. And you would have people who would get hired on as a certain, like, say, account manager. And then they would find themselves in a trust and safety department all the time. And you're like, but you should be and I get that. And maybe they gravitated towards that job because they didn't realize it existed when they got theirs. But then all of a sudden it's like, you have to do your job. Focus on your lane, like you said, stay the course, have a one-on-one with your boss, figure out if you're supposed to be in, your neighbor's business.
Yeah, exactly.
Say, am I allowed to give input if I hear something or no? No, yes, no. Just let me know. By the way, I'm taking your trash out because I know that you don't want to ask me to do it because I'm the friend on the team. I'm not just the bro on the team, right? Yeah. So as the commander, I would see you working hard and I'd see your trash can filled. And when you go to toss that trash into the thing, it's going to be empty for you. So you don't have to worry about telling anyone to clean it because I want to be on point, sir. That's what I want. I want point. Okay. And you know that Rad's going to be on point and you're going to be like, Rad is the bro on the team, not the bro, the friend on the team. Cause there's a bro and a friend on the team. Yeah. You can send, hey, here you are working hard. You throw your trash into the basket, trying to get everybody this weapons, a ride, a place to fight, a person to fight against, the mission, and to come home. That's what you're doing in the office. And the last thing you need to do is worry about, hey, bro, will you take the trash out for me? Let me get back to my work. It should already be done. They should already be looking at you like, hey, the boss is getting me this gig, man. And he knows I'm the breacher and he's going to give me some extra decor. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Right?
We all have a role to play and we got to understand what that is.
Right. The bro versus the friend on the team. And I want to talk to my listener and say, are you the bro or the friend on the team at where you work? You know, and it just takes a switch maybe to change a little bit. And it's not sucking up to the boss. You're hired to do things and work for the boss. And it's okay to be like, hey, you good with this? You like this? Are you happy with this? Is this cool? And everyone's like, he's always in there talking to the boss. He's always in there like, you know, kissing up. Nah, man, he's just trying to provide customer service to who hired him because he is providing that to the person who's paying him. And if you're working for the captain or the captain in a corporate America, then you owe them some customer service. And hey, we all want 5-star Google reviews. You know, go ahead and leave me one. Your boss wants you to leave them one, that kind of thing. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, we can't lead in a vacuum. We can't lead and we can't, you know, and I'm not even, you know, recently I've kind of stopped saying the word follow, right? Because I think it sets the wrong message. Because when we think about what do effective organizations do, and again, it can be in the military, it can be outside of the military. If you take it back to lessons you learn in the military, take it back to basic training, take it back to the recruiting posters. Look at the recruiting posters for the Army. Okay, be all you can be. That's the Army went back to be all you can be, which I think was a great idea. Look at the Marine posters. Okay, where in the visuals that you see does it say follow? Where's the motto that you see where it says follow? Now, okay, someone will say, well, the infantry models follow me. Okay, right. Well, follow me is not I'm going to follow you. It's follow me.
Together, like on the line.
I'm leading. I'm leading you.
Yes,
right? It's all about leadership.
Right.
So we train people from the recruiting poster to be a leader. We never talk about this is what it's like to follow. We're going to have a block of instruction today and points of performance of following. Now, through your training of being a leader, you're going to do things like rotate roles. Okay, go back to the conversation we just had. Well, what do you do in a different role? Sometimes you shut your mouth and you do what you're told. Is that following? Maybe. But is that also training yourself to be a leader? Because this may not be my domain to make a decision in and to organize forces and organize projects and do things. And my role here may be to execute this portion of it. I'm going to lead that portion of it. I'm going to take ownership of it. I'm going to take accountability of it. I'm going to execute. I'm still a leader. But we never talk about following. And so any organization, whether that organization is in the military, whether it's a corporate environment, whether it's a sports team, it doesn't really matter. We've got to train leadership from day one.
I completely agree. And I think that, you know, there's enough sheep and shepherds and wolves out there fighting over all of the pasture that shepherds have the cattle prod. Okay. And so it's like, be a shepherd, you know, be your own self shepherd. And I think I want to talk about Audie Murphy. You're familiar with Audie Murphy?
Yes, I've heard of him.
Okay. Audie Murphy, right? World War II, really, you know, decorated 19-year-old. Okay. Let's be clear.
There's an NCO award named after him.
Yeah, exactly. And became a commissioned officer in the field. Okay. And it's such a young man, a self-leader who didn't give up, you know, went after the burning tank and got up onto the weaponry on there and just started to fend off the German forces, as a leader. Like everybody else around him was just like probably wounded, and he was just up there his own self, his own management skills, his own thought process of that recruitment poster, or, you know, going through his basic training and honing in on leadership skills, all came to fruition for him. You know, he just had to make all these decisive decisions at such a young age, right? Audie Murphy is someone who is a very, you know, decisive leader in the middle of a shitty situation. I never usually swear, but I mean, you can't really get it any other way on the podcast. I'm just saying, I try to keep it totally chill, but you know, God, I'm very emotional about it. But Audie Murphy, very good leader right there.
Yeah.
Like in crisis,
Well, I mean, think about how a special forces team is organized. Okay, so a special forces team is, because it's a small unit, it's a little bit easier to do than in a larger organization. But that's also why we have sub levels of command, right? Why do you have managers? Okay, well, who's a manager? Well, a squad leader is a manager. That's a people manager. A team leader is a manager. Okay, an individual soldier, that's an individual contributor. And I'm thinking, talking primarily about the task organization of like an infantry platoon. Okay. Well, once you're in the corporate world, once you're in charge of one person, you're considered a manager. So if you're in charge of 5 people and you're a E5 team leader, you are a manager. And same for a squad leader who's in charge of 9 people, right? These are subordinate levels of command. On an SF team, we have seniors and juniors across the various different specialties. But the entire conversation that we're having when we talk about input and planning is we're seeking input from everybody on that team, because we understand at the leadership level that we don't have all the answers. That why do we recruit, assess, and select dynamic people from different backgrounds? Because they're going to bring different perspective to problem sets. And what we want is to have that conversation. So we want to be inclusive in our planning process to understand everybody's perspectives, but then we want to be decisive in our decision making, knowing whose decision it is, most often the commander, who's going to take input and then make the decision. But then what happens when we make the decision? It doesn't matter what your argument was. You execute that decision, barring, illegal, immoral, caveats, right? So that's what is really great about when we talk about instilling discipline in that the military teaches primarily people, right? Is you're taught, when you walk out of that room, if your idea didn't get chosen, you're going to shut your mouth and you're going to execute. And you're not going to talk bad about everybody and spread dissension. We see that, we don't see that enough in the civilian world.
Correct.
We see that, I mean, we could talk about politics.
No, I just had this exact conversation with someone yesterday. I said, what you're saying is dissension among your team here, and I can hear it. And if I hear it, other people can hear it.
Yeah.
And that just happens, And if something happened between you and someone else on the job, then that needs to be taken care of between you and someone else. It doesn't need to be spread out to Bill, Bob, and Jan down the way, because they weren't even involved. Now you're just spreading dissension about someone there's 2 sides to every story. Yeah.
Yeah. Patrick Murphy, the former congressman and secretary of the Army, was on the podcast last year, 41 or something like that. I don't remember. And he has a great quote that I've used a lot. And he says, "You can disagree, but you can't be disagreeable." And what's the difference between those two things? We can disagree. We should disagree. We should have open discourse about our perspectives on a topic.
Correct.
But what's disagreeable? When the decision is made that we're going to do what you want and I don't, that I shut down. I shut you out. I don't want anything part of you. I'm unwilling to talk about it. Or because you have a different perspective on an issue, whether or not a decision has even been made, I'm not going to sit here and listen to your perspective. And all I'm going to do is speak badly about you. I'm going to work against you. And I'm going to create divide. That's disagreeable. And what we are experiencing now in a totality of many different things, I think society writ large is a society in which we think that it's okay to become disagreeable and we can just shut you out. We can say bad things about you on social media. We can turn you off, okay, and block you. And now all of a sudden you don't exist. Well, that's not productive to building organizations, because what's going to happen in next week, a month, a year, when I need you on my team, when I need you on my side for an issue, you're going to do the same thing to me? Right.
It's true.
We're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Are you going to always have, I like where you say, know your place. There's a time and a place to approach, the chain of command and talk to them. And if you do get to voice your idea on a mission or in a corporate planning session, or just as your small business. You're just talking with your wife in bed and your partner, and you're just trying to come up with the strategic capability. You just gotta, I guess just be the best you can be, and don't get at each other's throats, and I guess know your place.